Hello and welcome to Game On, and what a weekend of football has we started to see. Let's start with the big one. Manchester City versus Fulham today, and how many times would Manchester City go a goal behind this season? I think this is the fourth time this season where they've gone a goal behind and they've still come up with the win. And no Rodri, no De Bruyne, but they still found a way to win. And I mean, Manchester City will always do Manchester City thing, especially at home. Fulham really accounted for themselves today. I thought, they had a chance to go two goals up. Pereira had a great chance to go two goals up, and I think, they if they take that goal, I still think City will just find another way to win. I think right now they are just functional. It's not about aesthetics for them. It's just about grinding out the results no matter what happens. And again, Haaland was invisible today. It's I think when you're a good team, you're just a good team, isn't it? That's in Man City. I think anyone that finishes above them this season will do well and will most likely win the Premier League. I think that's just the way it is. Kovacic's performance today, top notch. You think who's gonna step into that role and perform. It feels like Phil Foden performs in the Champions League, and then everybody else just picks up the slack in the Premier League. And maybe this is just genius by Pep Guardiola this season, but I think we're gonna see. I mean, they've got a nice run of fixtures, right now after the international break. So I really don't see them dropping any more points, until when we get into maybe November, December, who knows. But by then, De Bruyne might be back. I hear rumors that he's very close to coming back. So it might just be like nothing ever happened, right? Let's move on to Liverpool. Liverpool, one goal against Crystal Palace, 1-0 to Liverpool at Crystal Palace. And this game, you would have thought Liverpool would have been more convincing in this game. Jota scores that first goal, and I know you're thinking there's going to be another goal, there's going to be another goal. And maybe there's something very clever. I mean, what do you guys think about, what Slot is doing? I think they're preparing, for life without Salah. I don't know, but I don't feel his influence as much, in this team, game in, game out. And maybe this is something clever. They haven't given him a new contract, so would Salah be there, next season? We just don't know, but it feels to me that his influence in the team is becoming less and less. And that might just be smart coaching, smart management from the manager. You're seeing the likes of Jota, Diaz, it's curious. Diaz didn't play today stepping into, the role and, delivering for Liverpool. And they keep keeping clean sheet. They kept another clean sheet, today. And I think I saw an interview. They were asking Virgil van Dijk, they know that they're the best, defense right now in the Premier League, and he was shocked, right? But I think they've conceded, maybe just one goal, or two goals, if I recall, because they've been winning most of their games without conceding a goal. I mean, they lost to Nottingham Forest, and I think they probably conceded one more goal, so they probably considered two goals, which is really impressive right now. But again, you have to look at the fixtures that Liverpool have had at the start of the season, but you've got to win them, right? Got to win them, so they've done well to win them. But I think we're going to know a lot more about Liverpool after the international break. They've got the likes of Chelsea, they've got the likes of, Arsenal as well. So we'll really see, whether, this is something that is sustainable. But Crystal Palace, I mean, they made the game competitive in the second half, but they really should have taken one of their chances. Really woeful, wasteful defending from Crystal Palace. And does this team remind you of when Zaha was in the team? It seems like Eze has stepped into that. When Eze doesn't perform, Crystal Palace doesn't seem to perform. And look, there were a lot of good things that happened with Crystal Palace. When Mateta came in, they played a little bit better. And I mean, they didn't have Adam Wharton, who I think is very important for them in their midfield. Gay looked a little bit shaky. There was this action that he just was completely taken out of the game. And I think Liverpool should have scored. I think they should have scored. I think it was Gakpo, and he blazed that widely. But I think, Crystal Palace, I mean, they ended the season very, very well last year, beating Liverpool, beating lots of teams, 3 and 4 goals. And let's not forget what they did to Manchester United, at Crystal Palace when they beat them. I think was it 5 or 7? I can't remember the scoreline. But it was a bad day for United back then. But you've got to see and think, where are they going to get their goals from? Mateta looks decent, but it's just not happening. But hey, they've also had tough fixtures as well. So I don't think that Crystal Palace will be down at the bottom three, but they really need to start getting results very, very soon. Now, let's move to Arsenal, right? I'm an Arsenal fan. I've got to talk about Arsenal. And this game um was I would just say a measured performance. A measured performance. I don't know what it is with Southampton. In fact, I don't know what it is with all those teams that are down around the coast, whether it's Brighton, Southampton, or Bournemouth. Arsenal just always seems to be able to, struggle against those teams, whether they get seasick with those. I have no idea. But Arsenal came a goal down, in this game. And I think last season, was it last season or 2 seasons ago, with Southampton, it ended 3-3, which is absolutely ridiculous in that game. And it's funny because Ramsdale, was a center in that game, and it wasn't so much, the main piece in this game as well. And it was great to see Ramsdale, come back, into the Emirates, and it seemed like he got a great reception and as well, which is, kudos to the fans that were there. But Arsenal were down, but only down for about 3 minutes, and then Kai Havertz, smashed the ball in the back of the net. And that goal, actually, if you look at that game in the first half, he had a very similar chance, and then he just swiped it. And this time around, he was a little bit more controlled, took the ball, shifted it, and smashed it into the back of the net. Kai Havertz is becoming, quite, the player for Arsenal. Is scoring regularly now, which is incredible. I think this in this calendar year, he scored a lot of goals, and long may that continue. I think at the Emirates, he scored in 3 consecutive home games now, for Arsenal, which is, saying quite a lot, for Kai Havertz. And of course, Saka, star boy, he was all over it today, with 2 assists and a goal. I think you could argue there is a debate here whether Saka is Arsenal's most important player. I think he is. Check out my video, my end of season video, end of last season, where I was talking about the 5 important players for Arsenal. And for me, Saka is just right up there, right up there. He makes Arsenal, very dangerous, right? You look at Saka, what he's capable to do. And for me, I think that he's a player that is very undroppable. And this is a criticism, we've had about, Mikel Arteta in terms of, the workload for Saka, right? He's so important, but he plays game in, game out. He plays in the cup games, he plays in the Champions League, plays in the Premier League. At some point, you want to be able to see how Arsenal perform, without Saka. And this game would have been a perfect game for us to test that out. It was Southampton, and yes, he played, and I think, the fact that you could have Martinelli and Trossard come in. I mean, I looked at that lineup today and I thought, well, it's not a bad lineup, right? I really want to see Mikel Arteta trust the players, on the bench. I thought this was the perfect game for Waneri, right? I thought Waneri could come into that team, and help them do something different, right? I understand that we didn't have the back line as we were, and maybe that made up his mind and decided to go for tried and trusted players. You had Jorginho, coming to it. You got Havertz, Jesus, and Sterling, coming, and then Partey had to play in right back, and Partey did decent. I think he did decent in that right back. I don't think he was troubled too much, but I wouldn't want to see Partey in the right back, against a team, like Bournemouth, because I think they've got, quite pacey players. So and there's one thing that Partey doesn't have is pace. So, hopefully with the international break, coming and going, we should have some of those injured players come back. Tomiyasu came into the game, today. So I fully expect him to have another, full week of practice. Hopefully he doesn't go out, for international break. And then we can have Tomiyasu, starting right back because I think, that gives Arsenal a lot more balance. And listen, let's talk about Jesus and Sterling. What did you make of their performance in this game? I would give them a 6 out of 10. Listen, I hear a lot of people are already throwing a criticism out about Sterling and JC's performance, but you look at two players that clearly have lacked minutes, for Arsenal. They haven't played a lot of games, and I think you've got to be a little bit kinder to them, right? And listen, let's see them have a run of more games, building a lot more confidence. Look, Sterling, for him mentally, this must be very hard. He was a regular starter, at Man City, and then went to Chelsea, and he was starting regularly, and then almost, without any sort of indication, he was now relegated out of the squad. So, coming to Arsenal, I certainly expected him to play more of a role. But I think it's very difficult if Martinelli keeps playing the way that he played when he came in, in that second half, scoring that goal and really changing the game. I think it's hard, to see Sterling, starting, against Martinelli. But, I would love to see, Sterling, but maybe it's just about combinations, right? Maybe it's understanding the way Sterling play and maybe without Ben White, and you've not got Uran Timber, and you haven't got, who you would want in your right back or left back position. Maybe that makes Mikel's mind, when it comes to, how regularly he starts Sterling. But, let me know what you guys think about Sterling's performance, Jesus. Do you think they should be getting a lot more games? And do you think we should have more patience, with them as well? Listen, it was a great weekend. I want to touch on some two other games, as well. Brentford and Wolves. Whew, what a game. 8 goals in that game. And Brentford do it again, scoring in the very first couple of minutes in the game. And listen, I was watching that game and I was thinking to myself, like, Brentford, are like Arsenal when it comes to corner kicks. I think two of their goals came from, set pieces, corners. So it'd be very interesting when we do play Brentford, how both teams seem to be very good at set pieces, how they cancel each other out. Brentford, always a difficult team, especially, at home. They ran out 5-3, consolation goal by Wolves at the end there. But very, very decent, performance for Brentford as well. And, first win for Leicester. Leicester won their first game, today, which was very interesting. They really troubled Arsenal. I think everyone saw that, last weekend, with Leicester, almost really making Arsenal, well, actually, Arsenal walked, for that, 3 points, right? They were all over Leicester in the first half, but then, two goals from Leicester, and then you're thinking, oh my goodness, what's going on here? But Leicester dug in, today, and they won the game against Bournemouth, which is, I think, it's always good to get that first win, on the belt. And when you're a newly promoted team, the sooner you can get that first win, the better, right? Because the thing about, newly promoted teams is that it's so easy to get into a cycle of losing, right? And you're in October, 3 months, the season has started, and you still haven't won a game. So getting that game, 3 points in the bag, just helps a little bit. And then you go into the international break, and maybe they can look back on some of the games, and tweak things here and there and see how they can push on. But Jamie Vardy still looks a threat. Obviously, he's not the same player that he was when he won the Premier League, which is not something that a lot of players can say. But he's still a threat, still a threat. And well done to them. Let's see how their season pans out. Another team to think about is West Ham. West Ham. I didn't expect that performance from West Ham, if I'm completely honest. I think when I was doing my predictions, I was looking at that game and thinking, well, you know what, perhaps that might end up being a draw because Ipswich seemed to be able to score goals, right? And that's something that when you're a newly promoted team, you've got to think about your ability to score goals, which is why I look at Ipswich and think they might have a chance if they just kind of nip it in a little bit, at the back, just keep a few clean sheets. They might get a lot more points and surprise a lot of teams. They were 2-2 draw against Aston Villa. And after West Ham scored, they went straight ahead and they equalized. And that game, was 1-1 for 40 minutes, right? And then there was a goal. I think it was a kudos goal that took it 2-1. And then at that, when a game is 2-1, right, you're kind of looking at it and thinking, both teams are looking for that next goal, right? Because it could be the difference between taking all 3 points and getting a draw. And Ipswich pushed and pushed, but they got taken apart by West Ham. West Ham was just clinical, right? You got Bowen being clinical, Antonio as well being clinical. So for me, Ipswich is one to watch. They're really a team to watch. West Ham, 4-1, winners in that game. But it didn't feel to me like a 4-1 game, I have to say. Listen, lots of other games to look out, for Manchester United playing Aston Villa, and I fear for Manchester United, completely because I don't know exactly what's gonna happen to that team. And do you know what? Long may it continue, right? I don't want Ten Hag to get sacked just yet. We need to play them, and we'll see how it goes. But hey, let me know what you thought, about the games as well. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you at the next game on reaction.